Alright, so, hi guys. I'm just going to be doing a quick tutorial about plants. Obviously you can see there's a lot around me. These are all the plants that I mostly own. Some are in other rooms, but these are the ones that are mostly in mine. So today I'm just going to show you some basic plant care tips and yeah. First of all, most of my information actually comes from books I've bought on plants, as well as a huge online community on Instagram. Instagram has a huge plant culture, especially in Oregon. Huge plant culture. They have like plant festivals, plant meetings, all that kind of stuff. So a lot of the terms and care tips that I get about my plants, I get from there. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to show you a couple of my plants that are a little harder to take care of, ones that are easier to take care of, just so you know which one is which. So, a plant that a lot of people have, that's very easy to take care of, super low maintenance, super just a kind of a chill plant, would definitely be this pothos. So, this lovely lady, you can kind of see, very long. I've had her for a year and a half. The best way to care for this plant is pretty much, it's any care. So in the winter you water it once every 3 weeks, in the summer once every 2 weeks. It's pretty much once the soil dries out, which you literally can just touch it with your finger. Once it's like, you know, crumbly, dry, you just completely fill the whole thing up with water. Let it drain out of a drainage hole, which you can see right there. Super important. They're super easy to take care of just because, like, the water, minimal. If you forget about them, they're actually okay. If you forget about them, they actually like being forgotten about sometimes. They like to completely dry out. Another big thing with plants is aeration holes. So sometimes if a soil gets too compact, it's old. It's just the roots get a little too root bound, which is another annoying thing plants can do is aeration. So I just take chopsticks, and if you go into a plant soil and you literally just poke holes this is before you water. You just poke holes in it. It's actually the best way to aerate the plant, because then the next time you water it, more water can get into the holes over there, and just get to different parts of the roots that are inside the pot. So this is pothos. These are common in a lot of stores. I have, I think, 3 different varieties. There's a bunch on the windows behind you, which you can't see. One that's kind of hard, now you'll see that it's hard, is this one. It's called a heart fern, and it looks very small, and you're like, okay, the plant looks okay, but then once you get a little closer up, you can see that it's just kind of shriveling. Yeah, ferns are kind of a pain, just because they need high humidity, just because they usually come from places of high humidity, aka the rainforest and things like that. So they require constant upkeep, I even have something called a cloche, which is usually, traditionally they're made out of glass, like this one, and what you do is you just take it and you would usually find, not generally wood, but you'd find another ceramic surface, and then you would just cover the plant with the cloche, and then the cloche would create a microenvironment where the plant, of just humidity, because the water that you would use to water the plant in the soil would just create a more humid atmosphere within the cloche, because it'd be closed off on the bottom. So it just becomes its own microenvironment, and it's super nice for the plant. The only downside is when you take it off, the plant gets a little shocked, which is why it looks like that right now. So it's called a cloche. They come in glass, very expensive in glass, but they also come in plastic / you can also make your own out of water bottles, which is very nice. So being root bound, I briefly mentioned before, is something that happens when plants are really old and they've been living in the same pot, usually for 2 or 3 years, and when you finally take the plant out of the pot, the roots are growing so thickly that there's almost no soil left, and it's just roots just growing in circles and more and more and more circles throughout the pot. So I don't have too many like that, just because I'm pretty good on the upkeep. This is called a spider plant. It's because it's just, the people always get reminded because these look like the legs, and then they also make little babies that hang off of webs. So this one is a little bit root bound. It's kind of hard to tell, but the way you can tell is if so say this plant generally does need to be watered, I don't know, once a week, once every like 9 days. But if the plant starts to get a lot more needy, like it needs water every 3 days, 4 days, like 4 days, and then 3 days, and then it requires a lot more light, that means that the plant is running out of space in the bottom of the pot for all the roots. So since there's so many roots, they need so much more nutrients, so more sun, more water, and sometimes even more fertilizer. So that's what called root bound is, and the only way to really fix root bound is to completely move the plant out of the pot, either cut the roots depending on the kind of plant, and then put them back in the same pot, or you generally do need to get a bigger pot for a plant. Plants. It's called propagation. It's the words when used in other contexts, so the way in which I use it is for plants. So, for example, I have two propagation stations right now. One of them is the pothos I showed you. So you can see this lovely little leaf, and it has a bunch of roots. So many. And also has a new growth. This right here is brand new as of like 2 days ago. So that's good. The best way to do that, again, pothos, not only are they the easiest plant to keep up, they are the easiest plant to propagate. Because when you want to propagate pothos, aka make plant babies, aka make more plants, which is making more plant babies, I guess. There are these things called nodes on the plant, and I will show you more close up. Let's do that right now. So nodes, let's see if I can kind of show you. So see these little brown things right there? Those are called nodes. They come in between each leaf, so there's the node is with this leaf growth right there, and then there's one right below it, right there, another node. So what you would do to propagate is you would cut the plant like in between two nodes, and then you would stick this is important, make sure that node makes it into a glass of water. In my experience, the best way to propagate is with water. You can also propagate with certain kinds of moisture-wicking dirt, as well as a lovely substance called sphagnum moss, which people actually use in reptile cages a lot. You can also use it for plants. So this is one instance where sphagnum moss is being used to propagate. This is called a fiddle-leaf fig, one of my favorite plants. They're so pretty and like... Anyway, so you can't really see any roots yet because they haven't formed, but this is called sphagnum moss. It's just pretty much water that you fill up to here, and then the moss will take the moisture and just distribute it throughout the glass, aka throughout the plant's root system. So those are just some ways to propagate. I enjoy it. It just takes a long time. So like this is a piece of jade that I've been propagating for a month, and you can see it has no roots. Maybe you can't see, but it has nothing. There is nothing in there. It's just brown on the bottom, but it does have a new growth. I'll show you that. So you can see that little baby right here. New growth. So that's positive. There's just no roots, so I can't plant it yet. That's the only downside. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's I think it's rewarding. There's also a lot of studies that say plants cause happiness. So I'm a pretty happy gal, I guess.